Hello everyone, welcome to a tropical weather checkup for August 21st. Today we're looking at Tropical Storm Genevieve, Tropical Storm Laura, and the two tropical depressions. One is in the Atlantic and one newly formed in the Pacific. Enjoy this video. And here's probably our final update on Genevieve. It's super tiny, nothing compared to what it used to be when it was a Category 4 at its peak. Here's the cloud fall, and you can see a lot of clouds out there, but not that much rain. That's a big problem for Genevieve. Another big problem, and why it is weakened, is look at the water temperature. Not that warm whatsoever. As the day goes on, the water temperatures are going to get slightly warmer, but once it becomes night, the storm will most likely be completely wiped off the map. Here's past 24-hour precipitation. You can see it's left a good path of rain and where it has gone away from Baja California in the last 24 hours. And looking at wind speed, you can still see where the storm is. You can see it on radar very easily, but as you can see, it will fade away. You can't even see the wind by the end of this animation. And now, looking at the intensity, 45 mile per hour winds, 1,001 millibars, and moving northwest at 10 miles per hour. As the track goes on, they're expecting it to become post-tropical at 5 p.m., which is the next advisory from the NHC, and then move away and fade into the ocean. Except a couple models are actually taking the storm into California as a post-tropical storm. And now, looking at the cone, you can see no watches or warnings in effect. Everybody knows that this storm is going to fade away. Here's the chance of tropical storm force winds. You can see that purple area, but as it goes farther out, the chance gets less because they're expecting this to fade away into the Pacific. Now looking at the models, most taking it into California, but by that time it would be a weak storm. Now going to newly formed Tropical Depression 9. It is right off the coast of Taiwan right now, and as you can see by radar imagery, actually does not look bad for just forming. They're expecting this thing to get up to Category 3, which is major hurricane status, or typhoon status, if you want to say it like that. Here's the cloud fall. You can see there's two major parts of the storm. They're expecting them to combine. Here is the water temperature, warm until you get into South Korea, and that's when they're expecting it to weaken down to a Cat 2 and then most likely hit South Korea. Now we're looking at past 24-hour precipitation. You can clearly see where the storm has been. There's some whites, purples, reds, all in that area to the east of Taiwan. Here's the wind speed. You can see that dark blue area. They're expecting this to eventually strengthen up into a Category 3, but most likely very soon to a tropical storm. Now looking at the intensity, 30 mile per hour winds, no pressure given just yet, and moving north at 12 miles per hour. This thing will most likely be still a tropical depression by 7 p.m. and then most likely strengthen up until a Category 3, and then it will weaken before it hits South Korea, which is definitely a good sign. Hopefully this thing weakens before it hits anywhere. Now going over to Tropical Depression 14, a very large system. It's currently coming close to Honduras and Nicaragua. Now looking at cloudfall, you can see just how disorganized this storm is. A massive amount of cloudfall all over the place. Now going over to temperature. Water temperature really isn't going to be a problem. It's going to be mostly land interaction that's going to be a slight problem for the storm. It's going to hit the Yucatan and then move into the Gulf of Mexico. Past 24-hour precipitation, you can see it hasn't dumped as much rain as Genevieve or Tropical Depression 9, but it still has dropped a good amount of rain in that area, plenty of green and yellow. Here's the wind speed. You can see a massive dark blue area. The storm is going to be very big. It's going to have the same problem that Isaias had at the beginning of Isaias's track. You can see at the end there, that eye and that really dark blue color starting to pop out. Now looking at intensity, 35 mile per hour winds, a pressure of 1,008 millibars, and moving northwest at 14 miles per hour. They're expecting the storm to strengthen to a tropical storm by tonight, and then hit the Yucatan as a very strong tropical storm, and most likely move into the Gulf of Mexico, become a hurricane briefly, and then weaken down to a tropical storm before it makes landfall in Texas or Louisiana. Here is the cone for the storm. Tropical storm warnings on some islands north of Honduras and on the coast of Yucatan Peninsula, and also some tropical storm watches on the northern coast of the Yucatan Peninsula. Here's the chance of tropical storm force winds. You can see there's a bunch of red because the storm is not yet a tropical storm, so they're not sure. But creeping into some greens on the Texas and Louisiana coast. And here's most of the models. They all predict mostly the same thing, hitting the Yucatan and then hitting Texas or Louisiana. And here's our final storm of the tropical weather checkup. It is Tropical Storm Laura, which just recently formed out of Tropical Depression 13. What I will say about Laura is it is a lot better organized than Tropical Depression 14. It was better organized when they were both tropical depressions. But anyways, now looking at the cloudfall, you can definitely see a lot better organized, and that's why it has become a tropical storm before Tropical Depression 14. And looking at water temperatures not at all a problem for this storm. They're expecting this to hit a lot of the Caribbean islands like Hispaniola and Cuba, and then move into the Gulf area where it could affect Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, and Louisiana. And now we're looking at past 24-hour precipitation. You can see that red-yellow area. The storm hasn't dumped that much rain compared to Tropical Depression 9, but it has dropped a good amount of rain. And there's the eye. You can see it moving across Antigua and Barbuda, St. Martin. It will eventually affect St. Kitts and Nevis and the Virgin Islands. They should definitely watch out in those countries. And now looking at the storm's intensity, 45 mile per hour winds, a pressure of 1,007 millibars, and moving west at 18 miles per hour. They're expecting the storm to stay as a tropical storm for the time that it is hitting most of the Caribbean islands like Puerto Rico, Hispaniola, and Cuba. It will eventually strengthen into a strong tropical storm and then become a hurricane as it enters the Gulf and could affect the United States. And now we're looking at the watches, warnings, and of course the cone. Plenty of tropical storm warnings across Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, St. Kitts and Nevis, and a lot of other islands. And then tropical storm watches along the northern coast of Hispaniola, which is Haiti and the Dominican, and in the Turks and Caicos and southern islands of the Bahamas. Here are the chance of tropical storm force winds. Some yellows on the Alabama, Louisiana, not yellows, lime green on Alabama, Mississippi, and Louisiana's coastline, which is 30% chance of tropical storm force winds. And here are the models. Most of them agree on the same thing, which does not look good for the U.S., as it could hit Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi, maybe Florida. Most of the models predict that. If you made it to the end of the video, thank you for watching. If you want more tropical checkups and hurricane updates in general, then definitely comment down below. Stay safe. Thank you for watching. Bye, guys.